Hi, today we're going to take a look at a new curriculum resource that's available for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade science teachers at CCISD. It's called STEMscopes, and it's a curriculum resource. I'm just going to Google it because it's going to be the first site that comes up. The first thing I need to do is tell STEMscopes that I'm from CCISD. So I'm going to go to User Login, and I'm going to type in my email address. It should recognize that you're from the Clear Creek ISD district. Click on the link, and now this is our login page for our district. So this is probably the page you would like to bookmark or share with students. If you, at the beginning of the year, you should have received an email inviting you to join STEMscopes. If you don't think you got that email or you've lost that email, contact your curriculum coordinator and they'll get that email sent back out to you. If you forgot your password, you can click here and it will help you reset it. Now I know my password, so I'm just going to log in. This takes me to the dashboard for the teacher view of STEMscopes. The first thing I need to do is make it so that my students can log in, and I'm going to create one login for all of my students, so it's pretty easy to do. To do that, I'm going to click on my username in the top right corner, and I'm going to choose Edit. I'm going to scroll down until I see Student Users, and I'm going to set a password for my kids. This can be anything you want. For example, if you want them to remember the word photosynthesis, you could make your password photosynthesis, but I'm going to make it really easy, and I'm going to make it CCISD. Then I'm going to scroll down. I don't have to check much of this info. It should be right. I would check that you have the right grade level selected. And then I'm going to choose Update. And that's it. I've created my student login. Any of my students can go to the CCISD STEMscopes page and log in using those credentials. So the next thing I need to do is create a place for me to put interactive activities for my students so that when they log in, they have something to do. To do that, I'm going to go to the student dashboard. And what you'll see here are some buckets. And there'll be 2 or 3 that have already been set up for you. But what I want to do is create my own bucket that I can add my own activities to. So I'm going to click on New Bucket. And I'm going to make a general bucket or folder of activities for all of my students to use. I don't have to put a description, but I could if I want it. And I'm going to click Create. So here I have my new bucket, and it has nothing in it. So the next thing I need to do is find some interactive activities for my students to do. The meat of the information that's available in STEMscopes is located under the STEMscopes button. From here you can get into all of the curriculum that applies to your grade level. So I'm going to pick my grade level, and it generates a list of state standards and activities and resources for each standard that I teach. I'm going to scroll down and let's find some information about matter. So I'm going to click and open up this scope, and I see a lot of information, a lot of teacher resources, and a lot of interactive activities for kids listed on the left side of the page. The teacher resources are great because, say I've never taught science before, I can get some background on what matter is and how students classify it at this grade level. I can read about the standards. I can get some ideas about teacher demonstrations and specific instructions on how to do those things. I can even get ideas about key concepts that my students I should be asking my students as I teach this lesson. But what we're going to look at today is all of the interactive activities that you can assign to students now that you've got that account created for them. Anytime you see a little symbol here, this little color-coded symbol, that means that this is an activity that I can add to a bucket for students to complete in a computer lab or on a student machine. There are some really great ones. The first one that I want to point out to you is that most of these scopes have a pre-assessment. The students just go through and take this little simple short quiz. They submit their name to you after they're done, and that's how you'll be able to see how they did. So I'm going to add the pre-assessment to my bucket. So I just go up here, I click on buckets, and I say check mark here, and it's added. So after my kids do the assessment, pre-assessment, because it's not going to take them very long, I'd like them to go and review some vocabulary that may be associated with this standard. So I'm going to click here and show you what a vocabulary game looks like. I'm going to add this to my bucket. So now my students can complete that. I'm going to scroll down a little bit more. These are really cool. The interactive virtual investigations are about 10 minutes worth of activities for your students. They're set up to model the scientific method, and they give a lot of really good content for kids. So I'm going to add this to the bucket. And a note about all of these little interactive games. If for some reason they're not working on your computer, you might want to update your flash or have your technician update your flash, because these are flash-driven activities. We'll close. And then the last one is a review game, and those are pretty cool too. I'm going to go ahead and add that to my bucket as well. So now I've added 4 activities for my students to complete. So let's look at how students would log in. I'm going to log out. This is that same login page that you as a teacher used. And the student account was ST_, and then the teacher username. And then we set our password to be CCISD, and the students would just log in. So I would direct my students to go to one of the 3 buckets that's set up, and most of my kids would go to the one that I shared with the whole science class. So we'll click there, and there are all the activities right there for them to do. They don't have to dig through and find those activities, and then they just start completing them. So pretty easy. Think about creating buckets for your entire class, and then also creating some buckets for your struggling students that can have some resources for them that'll help them get started or caught up with the rest of the class, because this is something that students should be able to access from home. All right, I hope you learned something new about STEMscopes. If you have any questions, contact your science curriculum coordinators or your TIS. Thank you.